Welcome to the Defiance NFT show. It is the 18th of November, and we have Simon One with us. I've just seen that Jimmy has arrived to join us on the stream. Jimmy, nice to see you here.
What's up, guys?
You almost have as long hair as Simon One here. If you don't know who Simon is, he's an actor, singer, author, basically someone who's from the entertainment industry. And I thought it'd be a good foil.
Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, who has better hair? We'll have to find out.
You really are rocking those long gingers, Jimmy.
Yeah, man. And I don't brush it or comb it early at all. I just wash it and let it fall how it lies. So, it works.
So for those who are not familiar with who Jimmy is, this is one of the, I guess, kind of foremost NFT people, someone with a sharp tongue, a sharp brain, and the ability to cut through the noise in a way that really communicates to people who can make a difference. I'm talking Gary Vee. I know that you have pitched to some fairly major organizations what NFTs are all about. But the thing that I really wanted to talk to you about today was Kingship, this deal with Universal. What is going on there? Because this blew my tiny little mind.
Man, it's still blowing my mind, to be honest with you. I've been very fortunate in the space, like you said, to be able to connect with some folks and teach them about NFTs. And one of those people is a guy named Nick Adler, who is one of Snoop's business development managers. And I've had a good relationship with him over the last 10 months. And he happened to, he's been following along the whole way during that time, and has collected Bored Apes himself, and has collected some other NFTs, and has really dove deep into the space. And so when he saw the opportunities emerging around Bored Apes and my collection, he saw that Guy Siri signed to represent Yuga Labs and the Bored Apes brand. He came to me and said, "Hey, you've got a great NFT collection and a lot of Bored Apes. Can I represent you and your apes in the space?" And so I said, "Yeah, let's do it, man. This sounds like an amazing opportunity." Him and I have been working together on a few other things. He's an advisor to NFT 42 and Nameless. So he set out, and through his contacts in Hollywood, I got connected to Celine Joshua, who is a executive over at Universal Music Group, and has a joint venture with them called 1022 PM. And so we sat down and talked about her idea for Kingship. She already had the name and had developed a lot of the idea herself. And we talked about which apes would be involved in it, and kind of how she wanted to roll out this idea and what she wanted to do. And I felt like we had a great alignment in her ideas and vision. And so we worked out a deal, and here we are. A few weeks later, we made the announcement, and now are actively developing the group and what it's going to be, and who the characters are. Each ape has a personality, and really just trying to figure out the best way to introduce Kingship to the NFT community, and it'd probably be through an NFT, I imagine.
So what's the story here? Because it could be a few different things. It could be NFTs leaping into the real world through some kind of cultural proposition. Is it a music group? Is it something that goes beyond that? I can imagine that you probably had the name Gorillas thrown at you more than you'd care to talk about. So let's put that to one side, because I know it's not that. But what is the story that you guys are actually telling?
Well, I think that it is that, we're in this is a metaverse native band, right? Metaverse native group, rather, and that we're going to see increasingly digital experiences. We've seen a lot of virtual performances and things coming out of South Korea and Japan and things like that. Like the virtual Rob Thomas and the movie Pop Star, which I love that movie. And you have these examples of virtual things in the real world, and we're going to start to see more and more performances virtually. You see people do performances in Fortnite, for example, and things like that. So as more and more of those experiences emerge, that's where Kingship really comes in. I think is that we have these metaverse native experiences that Kingship can be involved in, but very much a group that is going to make excellent music, and hopefully will be popular outside of the metaverse as well. Additionally, this is like a moment, I think, that Kingship is a part of, but isn't exclusive to. You have Timberland that also announced like the Ape music label, and is going to be doing some stuff there. You have a lot of other musicians that have recently started to show off their apes as profile pictures. And I think that it's not a huge leap to think that they may start to represent themselves in some virtual performances as these apes and things as the technology emerges and it becomes easier to rig those things up and do. So, I mean, it's already there, just, becoming more accessible to all of us and more familiar to all of us. So I just definitely think that like Kingship is, basically like tapped into the heartbeat of where things are going, and that it can create experiences that haven't been created before with these virtual characters. So, I mean, I don't think it's entirely unfair to compare it to the gorillas. The fact that these are apes and those are gorillas, like people are like, oh, we already have this. But the gorillas were just early to the game as far as like making a virtual band and a band that would be really well suited for the metaverse. And I imagine the gorillas will kill it in the metaverse as well. But there's room for a lot of success in the space. People want to hear new and exciting music, and I think that Kingship has an opportunity to make some of that.
I'm going to challenge you on that though, because you said excellent music. The Gorillaz had Damon Albarn, Jamie Hewlett was the artist, Tank Girl.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you're coming from a place where
I can't talk about any of it. I can't talk about any of it, but I can tell you that as someone who has music as a big part of my life, I'm just a fan. I am so stoked by the people who have reached out and want to be involved with Kingship. This is not going to be a joke in any way, shape, or form. There's some real talent behind all of this, and it'll be interesting to see if that is expressed. Like I don't know yet what the play is, so I'm not going to give up the game. But it's really amazing how many people are excited about this development in the music industry.
Well, it's funny to see your journey. We have a clip from about 8 years ago. My man over here is going to cue it up just to show who you were and what you were doing back in the day.
The thing I love the most about my job is I feel like I'm helping businesses move into the future.
So that's you with shorter hair in a different time, shilling Google. How does that feel now?
Well, it's interesting that you played that exact moment in the whole thing, because that was like, I think how I summed up that advertisement for Google's products in the partner program there. But it felt like I was moving businesses into the future. And that was a cool thing, because I was leveling the playing field as far as technology was concerned. And I actually did care about that at the time. It was, Web 2 times, and I was in the Web 2 space. And now, like, what I'm creating outside of being a collector, I have my own, NFT minting platform I'm creating. And it's actually a minting platform to be able to bring NFTs to enterprise and to businesses as well. So
which one is that? Is that Nameless, or is that Infinite? That's Nameless.
Nameless. Yeah, it was previously Infinity, now known as Nameless. So that is like what I'm doing here again. I'm doing what I'm familiar with, and that's like trying to build out an ecosystem to be able to support businesses to be able to use NFTs. So I've continued to try to find a way to bring new technology to businesses and to individuals in that 8-year span. That hair was short in that video, but I did at one time during my Google career also rock the locks. And it was also received very well at the time. But, these are some big, heavy locks here. And sometimes, it's a little bit much. It feels good to have no hair. I don't think I'm allowed to do that.
Did you ever imagine that?
I think my hair is in shirt.
Did you ever imagine that you'd be this kind of? Did you ever imagine that you'd be this figure in a cultural movement?
No, I think that it's really like amazing that like it's happening, and I'm trying to be very cognizant and humble about the experience itself. But maybe in my wildest dreams, I never imagined I would sign a record deal. That was nothing I ever imagined I would happen. I never imagined I would sell a NFT on Sotheby's for, $3.4 million. But that happened. And I really never really imagined before this year that I would raise, a significant amount of money. I raised $15 million for Nameless. All those three things happened to me in the same week, a couple weeks ago. Just pretty profound. I never really, like, in my wildest dreams, yes, but never all three. Maybe one of those things would be really cool. But it's been a very amazing experience. And you know, we in the CryptoKitties community in 2017 and 18, really in 2018, we said zeros or heroes. You know, we went all in on NFTs, and we knew we were either insane and crazy or we were on to the next big thing. And it's turning out that we were on to the next big thing. So I guess, like, in a way, we've been preparing for this inevitability if we were going to be heroes, and we all want to be heroes and not zeros. But now I guess, like, you know, there's a responsibility to shepherd people, continue to shepherd people into the space and to educate. And I'm, you know, leaning into that part of it as it's happening.
Well, I think it's fair to say that you are quite forthright, quite outspoken when you see BS, you call it.
Yeah.
Have you dialed back on that? Because it feels like that used to be your thing, that you would really call out BS when you saw it.
I mean, I have to some extent. I recently laid into the funks thing. I'm not really a big fan of the funks, the flipped image project for punks that copies that. So I've kind of taken a different tone, but a similar stances, like strong stances on things. You know, I always felt like I was attacking ideas and not people, but, you know, I can be really critical, and I realize, like, my words carry weight, and I want to be careful, you know, not to, like, be someone who's, like, having a negative impact on somebody. I want to have a positive impact on the people I have experiences with. So I'm trying to just be, not even really trying, it just feels better to be more positive and than to try to be super critical. The other part of that is that for a time, there weren't a lot of people that were willing to be critical and to point things out. And I felt like it needed to be said. I often feel like if I say something, I feel compelled, like it needs to be said, so that there's a counterpoint or something else. I'm never just mean to be mean, but and now it feels like there's a lot of skeptics and critics in the space that are taking that part on. And so I don't need to point the things out and, like, say the same things that other people are saying often. But, you know, for me, for me, it's a lot more rewarding to interact in a positive way. So yeah, I guess I have dialed it back quite a bit.
There's a degree to which some of the novelty around NFTs is what's driving the story around NFTs. Once you take this property and you put it in the lion's den amongst other music groups, and you have to fight in that context, things get really challenging. And I guess you can place it in the metaverse and say this is a metaverse specific project, but you're still up against the big dogs. And Simon is sitting here and he hasn't said a word, but, like, Simon is from the entertainment industry. He's been a musician, an actor, and an author. He's just finished a stint on a very big action movie franchise for Stars. So he has some kind of insights into all of this. Like, he knows what it's like to fight in that lion's den. Does that scare you at all?
Me, I don't know. Especially if you go back to music, I wanted to be a pop star. Okay, I wanted to be a rapper. I was a rave MC. So I've kind of done the old thing just before YouTube, and it's all great. It's nice. It's nice that we're having NFT bands in the metaverse, and it's cool. But is there an issue of, so where does that leave the little people that aren't a legend, that aren't Ice-T, Celine Dion, and Liam Gallagher in a supergroup NFT powered by Universal with a huge pot of money? Because you're really trading on the fact that they are already someone. Would anyone give a shit if you released a band of absolute unknowns with a random avatar? I don't think anyone would give a shit. But I mean, you obviously are going to be moving towards a point where, do you see yourself as being the platform to copy? Because once the trouble with this space is iteration and speed. It's so fast and so iterative. Is your band going to be now the benchmark for other people to do it? Because if you look at how fast crypto moves, within a month, that whole thing could be dead on its arse. Not saying it is, but just how fast it moves. So is that what, are you trying to create like a working ethic benchmark NFT supergroup star? Because all Korean record labels, if it's successful, will just steal it and have their own 2,000 dude supergroup, you know, with the avatars. They'll be the most perfect thing, voted by 1,000 girls. You know, they'll be able to change during the day. You know, if all of a sudden people don't like blue eyeshadow, that all the guys in the band, they have green eyeshadow. I mean, I mean, is that where you feel you are at the very point of that thing?
Look at him.
I mean,
so listen, I think that like you just laid out one version of what the future looks like as far as all this is concerned. And I think the great thing about what we're doing here too is that this is all decentralized and there's rooms for a lot of other things to emerge here too. So what I really like about Kingship and the deal with 1022 and UMG is that they're already have all of the pre-existing infrastructure and understanding and behemoth behind it in place in order to execute this. The machine is there, right? So it's already built. The other version of this that needs to be built is not built yet. And what Kingship can start to do is show some examples of things and give people ideas that they can then, take and start to create their own better, what they believe is a better experience. And that's how we get evolution of how this space evolves. It would be very difficult for a native band for me to come out with 4 of my apes and to find even some great talent and put it behind it and to market that properly and to get that people listening to it enough for people to give a shit. There are some people doing some stuff in the space. Deadmau5 has been in the space for a while trying to make some inroads. Blau's in the space. There's some really great performers that are doing some amazing things, that are doing it differently, that I support and commend and want them to be successful. We need to have all the examples out there. It's more of a, it's just like decentralization. Full decentralization is something that we'll probably never really see. Even if you go to like miners and how much is controlled by certain groups and things like that, and all the way down to who creates the actual silicon itself that puts on these chips. It's down to like one source basically. But it's a more of a scale, and so like where Kingship sits on the scale of decentralized music and groups is further on the centralized part than the decentralized part, but it's the beginning of a journey rather than the end destination. So like we, the people, have the power to decide, do we want to still continue to be comfortable receiving our music the way we do through Spotify and streaming services like that? Or are there going to be new services that emerge that you have to own the NFT to like play the music and, do Napster, but the right way, something like that. I'm in support. I'm in support of going down that road. Like, I just think that this is the start. And I think that like, this is also not just about the music itself and the existing music industry, but exemplifying how to use the commercial rights of your NFTs and the IP rights that come with it in a way that is different than just selling it for more and continuing to have those assets work for you. So I think that's what's really interesting to me as a collector, more than anything.
It's interesting that.
Let me just say that quickly before that, because I've been playing a lot of VR. I've been playing a lot of Beat Saber, and the great thing about Beat Saber is that you can download audio packs. So I've got the Billie Eilish pack. I love Billie Eilish.
I love Beat Saber too. It's great. Keep going.
Beat Saber is the best. So anything like that, which is rhythm based, even things like Pistol Whip, which is still rhythm based. If I was to buy an NFT, and I don't want to talk stupid fucking Christie money, like I'm talking a couple of dollars, because that's what kids want to spend. People want to spend on music.
Yep.
If I've got like a Justin Timberlake, very cool reference, fuck that. If I've got a Method Man NFT, so I go into Beat Saber, all of a sudden my VR world is now designed by Method Man and his team, or whatever his team's NFT people want to do. So it could be more violent, it could be full of this and that. My swords could be guns. Or if I go down a K-pop route, I've got like a Girls' Generation NFT, which cost me $2. And then it's all nice and pink and sexy, and my swords are legs. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's what I'm into. Yeah. I don't, as an end user, I don't necessarily care about being part of that person's life, and which not yours, but I know a lot of NFTs. It's like have a piece of the artist, and I don't care. I don't want that really, because I still want that to be elusive. And I think if we get too much into buy an NFT and come to the toilet with me, I think it's too much. But if I'm buying an NFT and all of a sudden in my Pistol Whip game, I got fucking Snoop Dogg over there and fucking Billy Ray Cyrus doing some weird shit, because if I see,
I think that's what's going to happen. I think this is where NFTs are going. Like, I think it's absolutely what's going to happen. And like, we have to start down this path. And I think we have begun that journey in a bigger way now, than rather than just the NFTs existing. We're now going to see those examples, because I mean, that's where this technology is, like where this has an opportunity to be a metaverse native band or experience, right? Like, it could be something where like, you have a Kingship token, and it does exactly that, like for a music track or something like that, where maybe not Beat Saber, but someone designs a platform to do this with NFTs, you know. But they have to feel like there's a critical mass of artists and things that are creating these, you know, and interested in NFTs in order for them to invest in creating that platform. And then, you know, that's what we have here, though, is, you know, we do have a situation where we are on a slippery slope of, are the existing labels and brands going to control the metaverse or not? I mean, Facebook is now Meta, you know, and I guess now we see the Winklevoss twins have announced they're going to build their own metaverse, so they're going to go back and try to get Zuck this time.
Winkleverse.
You know? Yeah, the Winkleverse. Oh my God, did you just coin that?
We have the Zuck space and the Winkleverse. You know, David Finch is just like, okay, I can do a sequel now. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's actually a very good topic to dive into, the open metaverse. This discussion around what an alternative peer-to-peer value, you know, the value resides with you version of that metaverse looks like. I know you're very big on this. If I'm looking at NFT 42, you specifically say that you are a metaverse and virtual goods organization. So this must be on your radar. Was that text that you added in recently, or have you been always thinking about the metaverse?
You know, it has been a thought of ours for quite a long time. And about a year ago, I started speaking with Jamie Burke, who owns Outlier Ventures. And he has the Open Metaverse thesis, which I contributed to in a very small way. But I generally buy into that thesis and had before. It's actually why I was like, wow, okay, I actually really like Jamie, because he believes in this open metaverse that I believe in. So ended up joining his accelerator, NFT 42 did. And now I think the announcement comes out today. I preempted it a couple months ago, but I am a partner in Outlier Ventures as well. So I'm supporting that open metaverse thesis as an investor as well, and helping, you know, new companies come in and provide, you know, pre-seed capital to them and advisement to them as they build this out. So I very much do, like, I think NFTs, the reason I really, the reason I got into building NFTs was because I wanted to put my project AvaStars, I wanted to put the information about NFTs on chain. And one of the advantages of putting the metadata about an NFT directly on the chain is that now it's there in a trustless way, and you can interact with it in a trustless way. So that means that an open metaverse can carry an AvaStar from project to project and know exactly what's on it, what that AvaStar is and what it's made up of, and the art for it and everything else, without relying on a third-party service to do so. And so for an open metaverse to truly exist, you have to have trustless information as well. You can't be relying on third-party servers and things like that. So for me, the open metaverse is way more than just on-chain NFTs, but the part that NFTs can play, I believe that needs to be as trustless as possible, and that allows for some really cool composable elements. You can take your AvaStar into the Winkleverse, and now it becomes a 3D version of that they've conceived on how that might look. Or maybe AvaStars has an ability to plug into that and develop that third party for that experience, but then it could look completely different in the Meckle book, the meta book, whatever you called it.
Experience. Future is codex. Whoever invents a universal codec, because basically what we're talking about is just a unified, decentralized Unreal Engine 10. And I guess whoever scripts that algorithm that takes your little bit of data from your Metro bank thing, which might be you in a suit, to the Palm Springs luau. I mean, that's
the standards emerge, right? The standards, once the examples exist, then NFTs will be created to fit within these standards. So right now it's voxels for Sandbox Land, but once you have these things, whether it's a .vrm file or all these different types of 3D files, whatever that standard becomes, you'll start to see assets created in those ways. I think a lot of what we have today are going to be examples of NFTs and early examples. I wouldn't expect everything's going to port over to the open metaverse. Hopefully we'll be able to display the art of these profile pictures and things like that on the walls, big successful projects like Bored Apes and probably CryptoPunks and things like that will probably end up having 3D versions of themselves in multiple different metaverses But eventually it'll be more of a native experience where it is all portable, like you said, like that, like Unreal Engine 10, where, you go in and you create your assets. And really that's starting already. I think you can already start to create, like with Adobe, you can create now as an artist, create something as an NFT from within their interface. And so we'll start to see that with game assets as well. I think probably in the next year or two. The examples we have of games right now, like Axie Infinity and stuff like that, as a gamer, I find those games pretty dull and boring, but I mean, it's obviously a really powerful mechanism that they've tapped into here, and applying that to gaming. I mean, I think that's going to be one of the killer things that happens in NFTs in the next year or two for sure.
I've just seen that FrankyNines, the legendary FrankyNines, will be joining us in about half an hour. You won't be with us, unfortunately, but on a stream, Franky talked about designing a pitch deck. I think it was for Coinbase to teach them about NFTs. Was it not? It was Facebook. So you did that pitch
twice.
How much can you reveal? How much can you reveal?
I mean, it was our pitch. We did it. I can just say that, like, Franky hit me up after the Meta rebranding and said, "Wow, dude. So basically we gave, like, Mark the framework for, what he's going to end up doing." I don't know how much, like, of what we did made it to him and to what they ended up doing, but I can tell you that we were teaching people about, it was a intro to NFTs in the metaverse, and we explained, like, the different areas that this was going to have an impact, and we gave them examples of their own technology, like Instagram, that, like, instead of this being an ad platform, it's now a creation platform where you can create content and sell it. Your creators can sell it and you can get a piece of it. So it's a marketplace now instead. Things like that. I mean, it was cool. It was really cool to be able to, like, teach larger organizations about that. It's not been the only company I've spoken to. But yeah, it's an example of the companies that I've been speaking to and teaching about this. And for me, it's been a really interesting place for me to be at an intersection of all this and have an understanding of just how many businesses are getting ready to start delving into this space. So I've just kind of been bracing myself, and we're trying to build Nameless as a platform so it can be serviceable and usable by, larger organizations and entities because of the variety of people I've had the opportunity to speak to. But yeah, we might have, like, tipped the scales there or piqued their interest. I'm not sure what happened, but if I ever do get an opportunity to talk to Mark, I'll ask him if he ever saw my presentation.
Well, it's interesting because we go back to that Google Ditto presentation. You're talking about leading businesses into the future. You're someone that understands cloud services. You understand that side of things. When you walked in the room there, which version of you? Was it the version with the long hair, or was it the guy with the short hair who's very well spoken on camera and is talking very positively about the future? Or did you just go in there and say, "Listen, I'm going to hit you around the head with a stick and make you understand that the world is changing and you can either be on board or get left behind"?
Good question. When I got into the NFT space and blockchain space, the one thing I love is that I didn't have a master. And now I have many masters again. But the one thing I've done differently this time is just always been as, like, sincere and I don't want to say off the cuff as possible, but just whatever comes naturally is how I go with things. And so I'd say it's a combination of, that, on the video and all that kind of stuff, like, that was like a new experience for me, and those experiences aren't as new for me anymore. So I'm not nervous about them. I'm a lot more comfortable with myself. So I think that it's just, like, how I've evolved and getting into the space, and while I've accepted and I'm happy that this is the direction things are moving and we're seeing this more adoption of the technology, I still want to hang on to that fringe self that I am and just be able to just be my raw self as much as possible. A much happier version these days. I've had a girlfriend for the last 4 or 5 months. It's probably had a big impact too on my tweet sentiment. But I just go with it, man. I'm in a flow state, and I just try to stay in that flow state and not try to think too much about how I'm coming across. I know who I am. I know how I come across in general, so I don't worry about those aspects anymore. I figure I know all my flaws better than everybody else, so it's whatever.
It's the biggest lesson we can learn from this space is that we should not put anything on a pedestal. Like Swanee, he and I are friends. And one of the biggest things I admire about him is that he does not give a shit what people think. He is just 100% honestly
If they call
himself.
me fat, I'm bothered.
But look
I
at
hope
your
I
hair.
imbue a little bit of that. I hope I imbue a little bit of that, right? Like I am just trying to be my authentic self, less than I am trying to perform for an audience. So I mean, you know, some people, my general rule of thumb is 80-20. If 80% of the people like what I say and like what I do, I'm good with it. If 20% don't, that's cool. If everybody's agreeing with you, like that's just boring anyways.
So I've got one last question before we let you go, because we need to let you go.
Cool.
Bored Apes feel like punks now. They feel out of reach, elitist, and distant. And you are right there. You're in the middle of that. It is going to be a significant headwind and a big stick to be beating you with. But I think it's unfair and ungrounded. But at least it's there. How do you rise to that challenge? How do you answer that question when people put it to you?
You know, I actually anticipated a little bit of the success. I at one time was the largest holder after Franky got rid of all of his NFTs. I had the most Bored Apes. And so I made a very intentional decision at the time, no matter what the market was at, to try to reduce my supply down and not be the top holder. I'm now like the 4th or 5th biggest holder of Bored Apes. I'm going to continue to hold on to most of those and try to like create new opportunities like with this Kingship thing and show some examples on how to monetize a collection. I, for the last few weeks, even before things popped off, encouraged people, which I rarely do these days, encourage people that I thought that, you know, Bored Apes and mutants and even dogs to a certain aspect were, you know, important projects and things that people should pay attention to. It has since done very well. It could change tomorrow and things could dive down to below where I said it. I'm not trying to make market calls here, but I think they're important projects. And I think the market is now waking up to the potential value of them. There will be another Bored Apes is my answer to that. You know, this is the space where anybody can enter and do something amazing. Bored Apes came out of nowhere, seemingly. They worked on their project for 4 or 5 months. So we saw a lot of stuff come out right behind it this year, stuff that was quickly made to copy the same models. But I think the stuff that people are still building right now that hasn't been launched is what could be interesting. And you know, there's going to be new opportunities. Bored Apes is an example. You know, there's so many ways to win in the space at the moment that, you know, with Bored Apes coming under a lot of scrutiny or you know, becoming elitist like punks did, I do think it's important that that the community finds ways to allow others to be included in it as well. And I think things like Kingship do that, right? You can be a fan of Kingship. There's now going to be tokens coming out for Kingship, so you can not be part of, you know, the Bored Apes community directly, but you could be a fan of Kingship and get experiences that are tangential to Bored Apes. So I think it could be a spider web effect as well. But I mean, I've given out the thing I have working for me, guys, is I started with 420 apes, and I probably gave out 100.
Stop. 420. Are you?
Yeah.
Why?
That's fucking mental.
Why? What were you?
I mean,
was it like a?
I wanted at first. I wanted to get a gold ape when I realized there was a gold ape, so I minted like 120. I think I got one, and then I saw that Pranked was continuing to mint, and so I just like, you know, kept going until like I hit 420, and he was just about done. I was like, I'm not going to get any more transactions through. Like everybody had started minting them at that point, and they were selling out. So, and then I just gave them to anybody who wanted them. Like all my friends, I gave one to everybody in my company at the time. Gave out a grip to a few different people.
He did that.
There you go. So like it was a cool project to get people into it. So I think the one thing I have working for me is that, you know, I gave out a ton of apes and I wasn't greedy with them at all. And I sold them as the market was rising as well. I haven't really sold a ton since they even hit 60 ETH last time. I was still just holding on to them. The ones that I have left, I really like them. And I think that like, while I've done really well, like I've helped a lot of other people do really well. So I don't think I will individually come under a lot of heat for it because of how I handled it. But, you know, yeah, I hope that people continue to identify apes as a cool thing and not like some elitist bullshit, because that's not what it is.
Well, I think what people are starting to understand now is that you have a Jenkins the Valet, you have OXB1's Mutant Collection, you have Kingship now. all of these add luster to the overall collection, but they also add luster to the overall narrative that there is a thing here that is culturally relevant, that is actually exploitable in a commercial context, and that it's actually a lot of fun and different and weird, and it's kind of starting to leach over into areas in which bear markets, bull markets don't matter. It's you know, nobody stops listening to their favorite album because the market's red or green. They listen to it because they want to listen to it, and that gives you this resilience to a bear market, resilience to market conditions which traditionally crush sentiment. And I think that's
absolutely
the most
right.
positive thing in all of this. It's there's
NFTs are the Trojan horse for the blockchain adoption, right? For blockchain adoption, it gave an actual use to the crypto before like crypto could be like incorporated into today's like society and payment structures and things. So yeah, I think that NFTs are the next fucking thing, to quote Nate Alex, and that's where we're at.
The next fucking thing. God damn it! I had Ice Cube on the show just the last few days, and like, man, I got him to say we're gonna make it. He was like, "We're gonna make it, baby." And I almost felt like he believed it. But anyway, listen, Jimmy, I'm going to let you go. It's been awesome to have you on. I would thoroughly enjoy having you on again because there's so much more to unpack here. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights. Awesome.
Yeah, likewise. Really great to be here. Great to meet you guys and have the conversation. And anytime.
Nice to meet you, man.
We will let you go. Swan,
pack.
Jimmy's still here. That's embarrassing.
Should I hit leave studio?
Just
boot him.
Studio. Just
get rid of him.
I'm gonna leave.
Too many apes. 420 fucking apes. 420 apes.
What?
I would have fucking sold them all. I mean,
no, you wouldn't. You would have gotten over that hump where the money mattered. Does the money still matter to you, Swan?
No, it doesn't. Well, no, it does. It gives you the thing about money is it gives you the opportunity not to worry about money. It's just a weird.
It makes your penis longer as well. I've heard.
It does make my penis longer, which is unholy. So let me just rewind that a little bit.
Yes, rewind.
So rewind back to when you are singing Gregorian choir music for the glorious fans of traditional music to now Ice Cube. Talk to me about that journey.
Wait.
Classical to Ice Cube.
To Ice Cube. Yes. On the show this week, we had Ice Cube. And it was one of those weird kind of pinch yourself moments because it's Ice Cube. Of all people, I think you feel like of NWA, like he's the one that really spoke out and had something to say. You, Dre, I got something to say. And I got to speak to him. It was odd because he was very kind of restrained and dry in a weird way. I was sort of hoping to get sworn at more, honestly.
Yeah. like in a Friday or something. Well, this is the thing, like guy's not. I mean, he's got to be what 60 odd.
No, he's 52.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
he's almost as old as you are.
Fuck, I'm not that old. That can't be right. I guess no, it is right. They were a little bit older than us. I mean, NWA. Oh, God damn it! Straight out of Compton. It's just because I know we spoke off camera. Like I would have fangirled quite hard. I was a huge when everyone found Bob Dylan and Rolling Stones and the Beatles. That 11, 12 thing where everyone's trying. I was like, fuck that. I found hip hop. Breakdance, electric boogaloo. So like that's where I went. Hip hop was my thing, and I think I would have just done this. Let's pretend you would be Ice Cube, and we'll be the stream. Okay, 3, 2. Fucking hell!
With Ice Cube was like,
fucking hell! Yeah, that's what I've been like. I would have properly fangirled hard. So I'm just pleased that you got to speak to one of my all-time heroes.
Yeah, it was actually perfectly normal, to be honest with you. And I'll tell you why it was normal. It was because I wasn't going into it interviewing him about music and interviewing him about his place in the pantheon of rap stars. I was talking to him about NFTs, and he doesn't know jack shit about NFTs. And I know a great deal more than him. So I was in a definite position of strength, comparatively speaking. But also, what was weird was that he wasn't like, yeah, no, I'm gonna do this NFT, yeah, and it's gonna be like, wow, it's gonna be like, we're gonna just sell millions and millions and millions. He was like, I want to do it right. I want to do it slow. I want to do it.
That's kind of hot and weird.
It's kind of hot and weird. Should I do the
Child.
Hey Swan, how are you doing today? My name's Ice Cube.
This is great. So Ice Cube wrote in to us a few weeks ago, really wanted to do some raps on air. So Ice Cube, what have you got to rap about? Who's being
I want to do an NFT.
something like that? Anyway,
So
we
but
got
also,
a vocal voice effects thing. No, but seriously, like one of the most fun things that happened, actually, weirdly, in the course of shooting this video, we wanted to shoot something because we make these YouTube videos and like they're kind of throwaway half the time, but we try and do like from time to time we do something that's got a bit of meat creatively to it because I used to make music videos, you know, like I could have taken an Ice Cube track and done a pitch on it. I've pitched on all sorts of different artists over the years, like Prodigy, and as soon as I heard the track, I was like, I want to do something visual. But of course, I had to try and figure out how to take the story of this episode, which was Trevor, old school painter, and Ice Cube, rapper, and collide them together. So we started looking at images of like, we'd take paint, which represents Trevor, and a speaker, and then we obviously poured paint on the speaker and made it dance. We were looking at like the whiskey. So we had an AK-47 whiskey holder. And like Trevor just did a massive whiskey drop. We had the AK-47 and just looking at these ways of colliding all these different things together. I don't know if you know this. This is Aku, Michael Johnson's NFT artistic property. I love this thing. Like physical art. Sorry?
The runner.
Michael Johnson. That's Michael Johnson.
Oh, right.
He was very fast and had no chin. Legend. No, Micah is an artist who's doing extremely well at the moment. And, you know, it's like, why can't black kids go to space? You know, it's trying to understand racial identity and
well, they do in Fast and the Furious 9.
They do in Fast and Furious 9. That is a splendid suspension of disbelief odyssey. But what happened was we set this robot on fire because there's a whole bunch of AI and stuff going on. And I bought this really shitty plastic robot and we set it on fire. And then it turned into this. It basically took on this weird life as a, I mean, it's like you look at this thing and the textures of it, the way it's like its foot is just stuck down and you can turn it on. It still works. But it's completely and utterly ruined by flame in the most brilliant, beautiful way. And now this thing is like, we look at it and it's like, I love it. I absolutely love it. We just created this thing through flame. It's real.
Well, I think Burning Robots, there you go. There's a new NFT project for you. Burning Robots. Speaking of NFTs, sorry to drag you away from the Ice Cube thing, which if you're watching this, watch the Defiant video. It's got the most amazing intro. Every time these guys do an intro, I'm like, shh, you fucked yourself.
We can watch it now.
Ooh.
Exactly 1 month ago, acclaimed crypto artist Trevor Jones reached out with a request that I would find impossible to turn down. Keep him calm, sure. But what about me, Trevor? How am I supposed to do this justice? Ice Cube, 3 decades of culture, no pressure. Get it wrong and risk the wrath of Cube. Well, there's history here. Trevor's shitting himself. I'm shitting myself. How does this end? With us all drowning in shit?
No.
We can't be afraid. Not of failure, not of rubbing anyone the wrong way, not afraid to speak up. Great art is a collision. So let's smash this together. Me, Cube, and Trevor Jones. Fuck it.
See, my pen is mightier than my AK. And my enemies won't have a good day. See, my pen is mightier than my AK. And my enemies won't have a good day. Blow their ass away, put them on layaway. Fuck they whole world up with the shit I say. Fuck they whole life up with the shit I write. It's a shark in the water, do you feel the bite?
So there you go. That was our music video for this track. It's an original Ice Cube track. And I've just seen that FrankyNines is on the stream, except he's not there. It's just a blank thing. There he is.
Sorry.
FrankyNines.
They tried to
Welcome.
do this thing.
So Franky
Was good.
Franky's the brains behind SupDucks. And if you, like, full disclosure here, I'm deep into SupDucks. I absolutely love them. I represent myself on Twitter as a SupDuck. And this is the man that drew them. It's also a man that used to work at NFT 42 with Jimmy that we just had on the show. Franky, welcome.
Yo,
thanks for joining.
What's up? Sorry, I was you guys got a blank mic or a blank cam. I was grabbing my headphones. What's up, y'all? What's up, y'all?
What's up?
What you guys doing?
Finally, we get to say it. So
yeah, I got my pink dolphin on too today. Rocking.
Mine
we did a merch drop with Pink Dolphin. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, mine's in the post. Apparently, it's coming up at some point.
It's dope. The back of the shirts.
Oh damn!
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's dope.
Reminds me of Fat Willie's Surf Shack.
Oh,
That's
Fat
sick.
Willie's Surf Shack. Yes. So, Franky, Jimmy was telling us about the pitch deck that you guys put together to pitch to Facebook and many others as well.
Yeah.
And you guys are working together at NFT 42. Like, what was your understanding of NFTs back then? How were you thinking about them?
Well, I've been in the space for a long time. Before NFT 42, I was at Dapper Labs. So I worked on NBA Top Shot, and I worked closely with like CryptoKitties team and the creative that was there at the time. So I've been in the NFT space for, since the beginning, since 2018. Aside from being an artist in the space, minting on Known Origin and Maker's Place and Super Rare, I've always had kind of a deep understanding of the power of the technology, not only from the utility standpoint of like what you can actually do with something that is an NFT as a piece of art, but also the power of like how does it empower this next generation of artists that are coming from the digital realm, right? Because the way I see it is like, for tens of thousands of years, artisans have been getting paid to create. The artisans. There was artisans that carved the hieroglyphics in the pyramids. There was artisans that painted the ceilings of the chapels in Rome. Right now we're in this like interesting kind of evolved revolution of digital art where artists now are using computers to create art, whether it be 3D or 2D on their iPads or whatever. And so the business of art, and then the NFT is an intersection of like almost like a game asset, right? Where it feels like we're not making art, we're making like game objects, and that's where we start to get into the metaverses and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I've been involved in the space for a long time.
That's really interesting. You're the first person I've spoken to in this space ever that have made that distinction between artisans and artists. And I think it's so important because it's very possible to be an artisan. You can produce stock footage, you can, do jobs for hire. Artists, I feel like they sit as kind of more like creative directors. And that's why I see you. I see you as this kind of, you have this character, you have this energy, you have this idea about what you want this project to be, and you embody it and you live it. And the energy with which you dispense that through the live stream is infectious. And that's why I've continued to be on this journey, because I love that artistic energy. And you're not an artisan, not at all. But I think what you're saying is that there is a space for artisans to exist in this space. And would you make the distinction between the two, between artists and artisans?
I mean, I think it's for me specifically, I'm the type of person where I'm kind of a jack of all trades, right? Like I've been able to teach myself to paint, to code, to design, to run businesses, to creative direct, to manage, to understand. Like it's the type of thing where it's like the older I get and the more knowledge I gain in my head, right? Like there's some people that they stick to one thing. They just stay painting, and that's all they do. And so I think the distinction between the two is, someone who is an artist or someone who is dedicated to their craft versus someone who is understanding of the requirements and the skills that it takes to craft, right?
So I think my definition of an artist versus an artisan. You give an artist a brief. So you give an artisan a brief, they execute it perfectly. They do exactly what you want. The artist will take that brief, they'll set it on fire, and then they'll throw it in the corner and piss on it. That's what you want from an artist. You want everything to be challenged and ripped up and difficult. Whereas an artisan, you want them to just get it done and do it beautifully and incredibly well. And they can still be incredible craftsmen, but they're not going to do that burning, tearing, pissing, destroying, and then coming up with something else.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier. This is a piece of shit. This is a plastic robot toy.
Is it 3D
we set
printed?
it on fire, and it suddenly became this incredible thing. And it was in a video. I love it now. It's fucked. And it still moves, but now it has personality, it has character, and it has that because we fucked with it. That's what I think an artist is about. And Swanee, I'd love you to chip in here because you're also an artist. And I don't know if you can see it. Swanee's art is behind me. What I'm saying is like I would love Swanee and SupDucks to collaborate because I think it would be a match made in heaven.
Well, we should. The thing about art with me and what irks me and has irked me before in this space is that notion of the struggling, soul-tortured artist that is doing it because of some otherworldly, poetic bullshit reason, which could be for self-healing, could be for anger, could be for hate, could be to try and get in some girls' knickers, could be to say sorry to someone. Do you know what I mean? Knickers or panties. There's a million reasons why an artist does art, whereas there's a lot of stuff that I see, especially with the PFP projects, not SupDucks, I'm just talking about everyone else. It's design, and it goes back to what you both mentioned about art versus artisans, and these are competent drawings of a thing. Does it mean it's art? Does it mean that artists has learned anything? Does it mean we will? 99.9% of the time, it doesn't. It means fuck all. It's a cash grab. So it's really interesting to hear you say about the NFTs being this broader thing with a director and a creator. I just realized it's more like a circus. It's more like you're the ringleader of the SupDucks circus. You're the guy in the top hat making everything happen. Because individually, the pieces don't necessarily have to be that great. I mean, yeah, it's a picture of a dog. It's a picture of an ape. It's a girl riding a horse. It's a clown falling over a thing. You know, these things in their individuality aren't that special, but you put them together with a creative flair of a great ringleader, with that finesse and pomp of the circus tent. All of a sudden, you have something which I think is an art form, and I think that's what NFTs are. It's not the aesthetic image. It's not the message that it's written. It's not the roadmap. It's the entire thing that goes around it. It's
big picture,
yeah. It's this weird ball of creativity, and I think that in itself is what I think how things should be judged. Because you look at something like Bored Apes, this and that, but they're not that great. They're not subjectively, they're not that great. Mechaverse, the robots, they're fucking boring. They're not that great, but it's the thing that goes around it, which lives in the blockchain, which lives in that now metaverse, which I think is art. And when that can become quantified, I think that's what makes things become art rather than artisan. Because, like as you said earlier, you had to learn to paint and then code, and then be a bank manager, and then be a business developer. A lot of what I think the reticence with old style artists can't get their head around is they can't do that shit, because it's being very, very talented at one thing might be your only thing. You might be really good at rolling paint. But if you haven't got an idea about marketing plans, you haven't got how to network and connect yourself with different audiences, even Discord, you're kind of fucked.
I think the other thing too is, like, when I think about it, right, like, you know, people have been painting and carving and sculpting traditionally for tens of thousands of years. Like, if not, you know, like, you can even look at, you know, some of the paleo like carvings that they teach you in, like, you know, cave paintings. Like, digital art has only been around for about 30 years. And it was like very basic back in the day, you know, like when computers DOS was first come out, it was pixels. Like, it wasn't very advanced, you know, and like people didn't even really consider it art at the time, you know, when it was being created. It wasn't until like into the like late 80s, 90s that we started getting people that were actually creating digital art. Digital art being, you know, the DOS board, the DOS board pixel art and text-based art, you know? So like in terms of human in history, right? Like where people have been selling paintings and selling carvings or selling sculptures for thousands of years, like we've literally been selling digital art now for, you know, less than a decade, you know, aside from what has existed on the internet, but in the way that, you know, something where it's, I sell it to an owner and an owner owns it, it's less than 10 years old, you know? So I think like that to me is where my mind is like, okay, this is like, you know, an era, you know, or what you would call it. Like, I think to me, that's very fascinating. And yeah, I think to the NFT space, right? This is possible because of this technology, right?
Yeah.
So listen, you're sitting.
God, I was going to say the crypto art space. Is it then more of a fact that NFTs in the blockchain is a new paint medium as such, or is it the new artist? Because there's two different things. Is it just the materials, or is it the production?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's definitely the materials, right? Again, like, you know, advanced digital art is to the level of where it's at now has only been around for the last couple of years, right? Like, yeah, you could do some pretty badass 3D stuff 5 years ago, but it's not anywhere where it is today. And just the digital, the tooling that we have today, like, I don't know if you guys have an iPad, like iPad Procreate, like I can simulate an acrylic painting. And so the digital tools, I think the accessibility, the ability for just about anybody to be able to pick up a piece of technology and create, you know, it's all still quite fresh, I would say.
It's happening in music as well. You can just download a sample pack and get into.
This applies to the broad spectrum of creative, right? Writing, visual, just anything that's like a visual medium or an audible medium. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's
funny
really
though, because Swanee is an actor, and he's been acting in Hollywood films and in big TV series, and you really are reminded when you do that job that writing is actually the hardest creative art of all, because there is no technology to make you a better writer or assist you or make some things feel more professional. You're either a good writer or you're not. And it's like that one art form is for me is becoming more and more rarefied and more difficult to nail down and find. But I'm gonna just pivot now, because Franky, you're designing a journey for SupDucks. You have a vision for what you want this thing to be. Could you give us an outline of kind of where you might be going, but also what you want people to experience along the way? Because I think that's such an integral part of the SupDucks experience.
Yeah, well, so I think, as I mentioned, you know, like I worked at Dapper Labs. I've been designing and building applications and brands and games for, you know, 15 plus years now in my career. I mean, if not even longer. So this is the first time where I've had a project where I've like, okay, I want to take all of my experience from what I've done in the past and now put it into one thing, and just think of like, what are the things that I want to do that I can do, but at the same time, understanding that the power of the technology and the way that we're kind of evolving in society into, you know, like more community strong, you know, like more financially free, more identity safe, you know, like as we start to evolve into that space, keeping that in mind. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I got into blockchain and crypto in the first place, was because I was like, you know, I built centralized applications and apps for big brands for so long that I was like, I want to do something different. Like I want to, you know, bring the power back to the people. So in terms of like, you know, what I'm doing and where I'm going is really, this is me being my own Walt Disney, right? Like I'm being able to create my own Mickey Mouse, and I'm able to create my own universe. And then within that, understanding that the people that are interacting and being users in the space, the consumers that are consuming the content that I'm creating, is they're just not a customer, right? These are part of the family that I'm building inside this universe. These are the members of the universe. And so I'm trying to be very like conscious about like, why am I building this and what am I building? And it's really not, you know, like at the end of the day, like I'm not there to, you know, try to just like, oh yeah, you paid me and I gave you some cool experience. Now go on to your life, right? Like I'm trying to build something where people they're invested long term, like they're invested in to see this grow and that it benefits them in some way. So how I'm starting to approach, and again, this all has to do with like the technology, right? Like what it empowers, and you know, it isn't just about, you know, just like, oh yeah, we got a user, they paid 99 cents and they're out, you know, like it's how do we build these like long-term functionality pieces that benefit. And the other thing too is like, how can we build experiences and tools where the members in the community and the consumers can actually start to interact with each other in a way to where we can start to build little tiny businesses, right? The best example that I have right now is in SupDucks in community, we have a user named Gypsy, and during Halloween, he was like giving people custom Halloween costumes, right? And he was doing it in exchange for Volt, which is our utility token within our ecosystem. And so how can I start to build the technology and the tools and guidelines to make it so that people can interact with the content that we're creating and start to set up their own little tiny businesses and little ways for them to interact and earn, you know, earn tokens, or even have functionality to generate tokens or whatnot, so that they can start to be even more committed in a way, right? So like that's how I'm kind of like approaching and moving things in terms of like what we're doing next. Obviously, we're closing up the loop with the frog stuff. You know, I introduced a new character into the environment. We're starting the development on the game, which is going to be, you know, an open kind of metaverse platform for 2D projects. I don't want to do 3D. I think, like, thumbs up to all the people that know how to do 3D. I never got into it. I'm still old school. I like 2D. I like pixels, and I like, you know, like I like to keep it flat. So I'm going to be building something that caters to them. And then I'm also, you know, building the SDKs and the APIs that are interoperable so that other projects can jump in, because I love the mess of all of the different types of art that we have in this space. Like when it's all together, I'm like, yes, this giant mess is beautiful. You know, I don't want it all to look like it's like, you know, it's not all one Pixar movie. You know, it's like, it's everything in explosion. So, you know, building a platform where all of these projects can jump in and utilize and navigate inside that world is where we're going.
So I'm just going to give people who might not know what SupDucks is doing a little overview. So they're King Frogs. King Frogs were half mintable through a public mint and then half claimable by owners of SupDucks. You get your King Frog. He's a little dude. You inherit some attributes from the original SupDuck, and then this thing, you've got a snack station, and you've got Volt Cola, you've got Chitty Fireflies, you've got gummy worms, and you've got ice cream. You feed your frog, it becomes an animated frog, but it's got this kind of weird atomic energy thing going on, and then you can mash those together to make a thick toad, which you can then produce a lollipop that your duck can become like an evolved version of itself. So a lot of the mechanics are kind of familiar from the worlds of CyberCons and from Bored Apes, but you've done it in your own way. You didn't copy. You said, like, we're going to do it like this. I've always loved feeding my frogs, because then when you see them again, you're like, whoa, look at this thing. It's cool.
Yeah, you nailed it, actually. I'm impressed. You know exactly what we're doing. That's dope. You know what's funny?
I think it's important. I think it's important to show people that there is a structure and a plan, and that you also have to execute this shit. You can't just say, "Oh, we're going to have this roadmap," but like you have to execute. Like doing a token is actually relatively straightforward, but delivering animated versions of NFTs quite difficult, and doing it in a seamless way, in a way that is actually still elegant and still desirable, and then allowing people to have to make decisions, because in decisions we learn about ourselves. Is like, what would I sacrifice in order to make a toad, and is it worth me stacking another duck to get the vault that I need, or maybe I buy it off the open market when the market's down. This involves people in decision making processes that force them to take control of their own destiny. And that is the biggest blockchain narrative that there is, which is agency. You want to be able to control your own destiny. And I think that's one of the things that I've most enjoyed about this project is like, I don't know where you guys are going, but I'm kind of, I'm in. I'm totally in because the art style is consistent. It feels like you can just keep evolving this over time and adapting. Tell me about some of the collaborations though. Like tell me the Alex Party, where did that come from? Because Alex, his style is very different to yours.
Oh, yes. Oh, well, Alex has been a great friend of mine for a long time. I worked with him, built he was like one of the first apps that I built with like collaborating with an artist. And, you know, he just was like, I want to get in the project somehow, you know? And so I was like, all right, well, I got these little funky frogs. And I think like the collaborations, what I see is I definitely see an opportunity to have kind of other artists in this world, in the SupDucks world. Even, you know, Columbo he's another really good friend of mine. We've known each other for years. He made a version of the SupDucks, so like one of the original SuperDucks he dropped in there. And I think just like involving other artists, and again, like there is a challenge where you're trying to keep artwork consistent and packaged up so it all feels part of the same world, and then introducing new artists in. There is still that challenge, and so it's kind of a fun one because there are certain guidelines and rules and colors and line aesthetics that you have to use. And so, you know, kind of figuring out how to make that work is always an interesting, fun one. And then I think too, it's rad. Like I love it. Like the idea that I could, you know, purchase something that has some kind of tie to an amazing artist or something like that. I find that personally like really awesome.
How do you look back on the project now? We're a few months into it. I always hear like people saying this is a blue chip, this is not a blue chip. Bored Apes just rose and did its thing, but you are established now. Has it gone the way you were hoping, the way you expected it to? What is your kind of review of your own performance?
Yeah, I'm actually quite happy with it. There's 2 points. I think there's 2 levels of where you want to be when you drop from what I would expect, right? I would either say, hey, I want to be the #1 project in the whole world, and I want to blow up, and I want to have all these incoming brand deals and these partnerships, and I want to throw a giant party in New York and rent out a boat and do all this stuff, right? At some point, to me, that starts to become a little too like washed, I would say, right? Like it's a little too like, okay, now it's getting a little too branded. Now it's getting a little too corporate. Now it's getting a little too like, you know, mainstream, right? Like I'm still kind of like, I like the shit that's like cool, you know, like I like the shit that's like under the radar, you know. When it starts to become like everybody's part of it, I'm like, nah, I don't know if that's really my thing anymore. You know, I like to stay fresh. I like to stay new. So, you know, it's like you either go all the way or you don't have any success at all, and you take it as a learning point and you say, okay, that was, you know, our team, we tried, we did the best we could, let's scrap it, let's try again. You know, I think where SupDucks is, we've hit a sweet spot to where the people that know and the people that are in it are like, this is dope. You know, it hasn't exploded to the point to where like everybody, and it's not getting cheesy. And then, you know, like, I think some of these projects, there's a lot of people that aren't really interested in what's happening. They're interested in trying to buy something cheap and flipping it for a lot of money so that they can just go, you know, there's people that are in the game for those reasons. And I don't want those users in my ecosystem, you know? So like, I don't want those people that are just like trying to, you know, flip, you know, they buy 10 ducks and they flip it and they fluctuate the floor price and ruin it for everyone. I don't want those people in my ecosystem. Like those people can stay out. Like I want the people that are like, I'm going to buy a duck and I'm going to hold it for 3 years. I'm going to pass it down to my kid. I'm going to play this game. I'm going to learn all of these things. I'm going to go on this journey of innovation. Right. So I think SupDucks is like hit that sweet spot. And I feel really happy about it. Because I think there's tons of room to play. There's tons of room to innovate. There's tons of room for the community is large. It's pretty big, you know, 25,000 plus in the Discord, but it's small enough to where like I can still go in and interact with people. And like, I know people on a first name basis, you know, like in New York, I was meeting, you know, my community members and I know them, you know, it hasn't exploded to like the VFriend size where I'm like, okay, I have no idea who these people are. Like, I still like know, you know, who my top users are. I know my mods, you know, like, I think like we're at a very good sweet spot.
Do you think that was made easier by the fact that you had skin in the game already and you knew this space, and so you didn't try and force it or didn't try and chase it, possibly?
I think that, I think too, is with me, like, you know, I just don't deal with bullshit, kind of. I'm just like, you know, I tell it like it is. I'm transparent. You know, if something's like, I don't try to hide things, you know, like day one, when we launched, you know, I had people coming in the Discord spreading FUD, like, there's no roadmap, there's this, like, who is this guy? And I'm like, yo, Google me. Like, I put in my work. Like, I'm not gonna, you know, you could dox me. Like, I'm on the internet. Like, I've you know, like, I've paid a lot of money and done a lot of work to get my SEO up, so you guys know who I am and where I come from. You know, like, I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to, you know, and I tell it like it is. And I've experienced this. I've had projects. I've built apps with, you know, 50,000 users a day. I've had millions of downloads. I've done all of this before several times. So I kind of know where I'm at. And now I'm like, you know, how do I make this time around with a new set of technology? How do I make this really special?
I can give you the answer to that. Make a skateboard deck.
Make a skateboard deck. Yeah.
This is
sick.
That's my artwork.
Is your artwork.
Sick.
Sharpies. Fucking Sharpies.
Wait, is that like a paper transfer?
No, it's just on. I draw straight onto the board. Wait there. I got one upstairs.
Yeah, man. Sharpies. Can you imagine? Indelible markers. You get it wrong and you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Can't do that. Can't do that in Procreate.
Oh man, I can't wait for the thick boys. When are you announcing that this evening?
So we've already announced them. Ooh, that one's hot too. Dope. Wait, that's a skate deck, or is it a piece of wood?
It's a bit of wood.
Oh,
but no, skateboarding would be great. I'm a fucking skateboarder. Do a skateboard deck. I'll collaborate with you, and I'll be your pro.
Let's do it. Got to get one. Yeah. So Thick Toad. So yeah, we have our stream tonight. The thick boys, them thick toads, we're getting out before the end of the month because we are in like Toadvember is what we're calling it. We have, you know, most of the artwork is all done. We're just like polishing it and then building up a good user experience. We kind of pivoted a little bit in terms of the experience to what users expect. And this was a conscious decision, was, you know, we wanted to let users be able to see what was going to happen before they were fully committed. So we changed the direction of the UX from you just dump 3 frogs in and you get a toad and you don't know what's happening. We changed it so, you know, we redesigned the UI and we redesigned the contract so that users can actually manually craft. And the reason why we did this is because toads are not an easy thing. It's not an easy NFT to produce because there's so many complex steps. And so by the time the user has fully invested that much time or that much volt or even the gas, you know, we didn't want them to, you know, hit a point to where it's like they didn't know what they were buying, right? Like I'm kind of switching it around and I'm saying like, hey, you want something really cool. You've spent this much time figuring out how it works. You've spent this much volt. You've paid that much gas. I'm going to give you what you want and I'm going to make it predictable. And I'm going to like, it's still very, very complex. Like there's still a lot of like crafting and like, you have to kind of know how it works to get what you want. But we've changed it so that the users that are going to go through this loop actually, you know, they're fully invested. They, you know, I want them to feel like they put in all this work and here's the reward. It's not like I put in all this work and I got something random and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The Mega Mutants are spectacular and really intriguing, but I think the Mega Serum is like 3,500 ETH now. That's what it costs.
3,000 ETH?
3,500 ETH to get the Mega Serum.
So like
Didn't
no
I
one's
get-
doing that.
Oh no, nobody's doing that. No, they're
I
just
gave you a
squatting on
mutant,
the thing.
Didn't I? I'm sure I
You
gave
did. You did a mutant. You did an M1 mutant, but this is
Yeah.
like the very, very top level one. This is like the ultimate flex.
Anyway,
Um,
never mind that. So going back to the skateboard thing, I am a skateboarder. Call it SupDucks. SupDucks.
There you go.
That'll be your first pro rider.
There
Seriously.
you go. Sick. Yeah, I'll make a deck. I could get some blanks.
Yeah, man.
I think we might even be able to pop them on the merch shop or something.
Yeah, there's
SupDucks.
something so evocative about
First
skating.
pro, me. I can skate as well. I'm not joking. I represent, bruv. I'll take it
We
all
could
around the
get
world.
Tony Hawk to ride it, but he'd have to change his name to Tony Duck, and then
I wonder if Tony Hawk would has it. Does he have any NFTs?
Yes, he's doing some NFTs of famous tricks. So you can own the last 540. He did like the.
Whoa.
He's
That's
50
cool.
odd now, so he's doing a series of tricks that he'll never do again. So the
That's
last one was
cool.
doing a varial board flip.
Wow.
Last time he did an hand direct, and it's that basically, which is quite
That's crazy.
bad thing, isn't it? You think you never really think of that. It's the last time you're going to do something, but now you can buy it. You can buy that sorrowful moment of joy.
Yeah. I got a question for you guys.
yes,
Okay, so Jimmy was on your call. So Jimmy gave me my Bored Ape. I'm never gonna sell it ever. He gave it to me when Bored Apes dropped. I missed the mint. I was too busy working. Like I was building the UI for his company when he gave me, when he aped in. What's crazy is that like afterwards I bought, a handful of apes for like 1 ETH, 2 ETH or something like that. I gave them to friends and I kept a couple and whatever. It's blows my mind when I see these Twitter posts that it's like Post Malone bought bought a Bored Ape for 40 ETH. I'm like, dang. What do you guys think about like people coming in so late to the space paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for these NFTs versus us early people that know the game and we're in at like 1 ETH, 0.10, what is your guys' thoughts on that?
well, Swanee paid exactly 0 ETH for his.
I
I gave it to him.
yeah, exactly. Like, I gave like 3 or 4 away as well. But it's still it's crazy to me that people, especially like celebrities coming in, they're like,
Well, I look at it and I think, ha, you fucking moron! You spent $200 million on a fucking monkey that I got for fuck all. You.
Well, it's like
That's
like
crazy.
it's like a Rolex crossed with a membership of Soho House, but it's also, I don't know. It's a weird thing that sits in a very different culture space. What Jimmy was also saying was that there will be other projects beyond Bored Apes that do different things in different ways, and we should allow them to form their own path and have the ability to do that. And I think people look at Cool Cats, World of Women, SupDucks. Oni, I'm not sure about, but like there are certain projects where people are like there's some meat here and it can go and do its own thing. I'm just curious whether you have thought about what it would be like to be represented by UTA or by CAA, whether that's even on your radar, or whether you're just like, I'm just going to stay doing my thing. Because I can see you've got a badass studio over there, and I know what it's like to want that space.
Oh yeah,
just
my dreams have come true to just I have a place to create. I've actually had these conversations with CAA and some other top management representations, and I've banged my head on the table of like, what should I do here? Because there are the opportunities. There's one, usually this is my historical track record is when agencies hit me up, it's usually not because they want a part of my project, it's because they know I'm fucking good and I hit home runs and they want me to build projects for their people. That has happened to me my entire life. Like I was the lead creative on VFriends. Like I worked directly with Gary V and I coded up the system to generate the backgrounds on his NFTs. I did all of the UI design. I did the UX. Like I hit home runs when I work on a project. Again, I was on the Save the Day team for Top Shot. Top Shot was in development for months and they weren't doing it. And Rohan made the decision to call Benny, myself, and Arthur in to save the day. And, I came in with some fresh new designs and said, we're going to make it look like this. And boom, they took it and it hit a home run, SupDucks home run. So like these companies usually know that like anything I touch, pretty much, if I put my hands on it and I dedicate my time to it, like it's going to be successful. So usually when these companies hit me up, it's that. Though I did have the conversations where it's like, hey, we want to help push SupDucks further. What
do they mean by that? We want to push SupDucks further.
That's the thing is like, you know, it's how to like exactly like what does that mean? Like when you look at like the deal with like CryptoPunks did with was it UTM or is it UTM?
I think CryptoPunks was CAA.
Was it? So like what does that mean? Does that mean that there's now like CryptoPunks toys, or there's a CryptoPunks movie, or there's a CryptoPunks this or a CryptoPunks that? Like that it's still kind of blurry in terms of like what exactly does that mean? So like we're in development of a cartoon. Like I want to make a SupDucks cartoon. And I know I have a lot of friends that have already done this. They've pulled it off. My buddies at Pizza Slime, like they got their cartoon Fairfax bought on Amazon, and they're pitching their second one. They're going on a network. Alex Pardee, he did a big deal with one of the larger companies. So like I have friends that have already gone through these paths and done it, right? And so like when someone like CAA hits me up, it's like, hey, we want to take this over. We want a massive percentage, and we're going to guarantee it, you know. Part of me is like, do I want to be able to do it myself and then be like, yo, I did it myself, you know?
It's a weird one. It's old fashioned. It's like legacy media systems saying, hey, let's take your new thing. I mean, what will they really do? Even the biggest, say like Curtis Brown or whatever, they're just going to get you on a talk show. And like you say, get you a lunchbox deal with a Pixar project. And that's kind of all they can do. It's nice to be represented, but it's like they're taking this future thinking forward metaverse project and just sticking it in a Jonathan Ross show or a David Letterman environment, or doing a morning math show, morning news show. And that's kind of really what they'll do, because there's nothing that they will be able to bring to the table that they don't know about, or B can't do, or isn't being done by the client already. Like with you and SupDucks.
I'm going to challenge that, because Visa bought a punk.
Yes.
Visa bought a punk. Big brand, big signal. And therefore, for an agency and for agents looking at this, they're going, ooh, what other big brands can we marry up with an NFT project to do a deal? Yeah, so I think that there is actually new ground opening up here. I'm not sure whether I like it, but it's there.
Do you not just think that was a big company with a bit of spare money, and they said, hey, let's do something that's cool? I'm sure other brands have said they've got a TikTok account. And at the time, you know, everyone had a MySpace as well. I don't know. I don't think necessarily. Yeah, I don't think necessarily signifies forward thinking in terms of Visa. I think it's just someone's gone, oh, yo, shit, everyone's talking about NFTs. Just fucking buy one. You know what I mean?
So you said, or you compared like it to having a Soho membership, right? When you're part of one of these communities, at what point do I start to feel like the community I'm a part of is not a tight community when it's so represented by the mass? Right. So like, you know, you look at CryptoPunks holders or owners, like I don't have a punk, like I would love to have one. They're just out of my price bracket. But like, you know, you look at all of those owners where like it's a certain group of people, like what happens when, you know, that certain group of people has now opened up the doors, whether it's, you know, not the owners or the members themselves. Like, you know, does the Soho house feel the same that it did 10 years ago? Right, like now that the doors have opened to more and more people, like
yes, like once it gets cool, it's no longer cool.
That's kind of like where I'm starting to feel, right? Like where I'm starting to go. It's like, yeah, this is really exciting. It's healthy for the space. It's congratulations to those companies that it happens to. Yes, you're going to be fantastically rich, and everybody's going to know your brand. But like, as a member, like, does it feel special anymore?
Well, what you should do, you should invent some kind of kill switch cull. So in about 2-3 years, do a duck hunt. So you buy an NFT rifle and you can go around VR space, AR space. Anyone you see that's got a SupDuck,
popping guts,
and then you reduce, and then it's all about the dead ducks.
There you go.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I have a Bored Ape. I don't represent myself as that Bored Ape. I represent myself as a SupDuck, and there's a couple of reasons why. One, it's the only one I've ever seen that I feel truly represents me, to the
you.
extent that I could actually rock it on Twitter and not feel like an absolute dickhead.
Right.
And the second thing is, like, it's different. It does start a conversation. It's not just defaulting to the easy social signaling of a Bored Ape. It's like it's something that starts a conversation. People are like, well, why have you got this weird duck with rabbit ears and a massive smile? It's like, well, let's talk about that. I like that, you know, and it could have been any project. It just so happened that I don't know. I jived with it. It worked for me, and I'm not ashamed of that. I would have been ashamed of rocking my ape because I felt like I'm just kind of defaulting to the easy thing. Whereas with SupDucks, it feels a bit more special, and I don't want to lose that, and that's why I don't speak about it too much. But it's there, and this community is special to me, and I've spent hours and hours and hours reading through just what seems to be an endless column of subs. Because the fucking Discord channel just gets bombarded with subs, and you just scroll through, and then Discord breaks because there's so many of them coming through. But that's fun.
Yeah. I think that's because I actually when it comes to these big companies coming in, like I have this challenges me all the time because I'm like, yo, if I accept one of these and I just let them buy me out, like I'm a sellout. You know, like, yeah, I'll go make money and disappear to an island. But like, do I want to maintain and keep this special and keep it cool and keep it niche and keep it hard and keep it like, you know, raw? Like that's kind of how I'm my mind's slowly every day that, you know, time passes that I think about this. I'm like, you know, I want to keep it true. I want to keep it blockchain. Like I want to keep it, you know, rough, you know, so.
You're in the position now where I don't know how much money you guys raise with the King Frog sale, but you should have enough to keep you going for enough time to not have to give a fuck. It's not quite fuck you money, but it's like, you know what? I don't need it. I don't need it, and I'll do my own thing. And that's really where the big change is here. Like there's enough money around at this point in time to really dig in and say no, and be resistant enough to take that position.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean you're absolutely right. You know, we have a couple years runway, and we were really smart about, SupDucks. When we dropped SupDucks, I split the percentages equally with everybody on my team. I took the exact same as my developers. I took the exact same as even one of the members who, you know, he did the prototyping. He didn't even do the final code. Like I paid him the exact same amount because I wanted to establish trust with my gang. And then when King Frog dropped, I paid everybody a small bonus, but for majority, we put everything into a treasury. And, you know, we set everything up into a transparent Gnosis safe. Like everybody can see the funds. Like we have, you know, we do 2 calls a week where we manage our accounting, and we look at it and we say, hey, this is what we want to do. Hey, do we all agree on this? And, you know, people that work with me, like I pay them equally, even though, you know, like I work my ass off. Like I'm streaming every week. I'm doing artwork. I'm prototyping. I built the iOS app. Like, you know, like I'm jumping on calls every day. Like I'm working, you know, 2-3 times as hard as everybody else. But I didn't take no less and I didn't take no more than, you know, what I paid everybody equally. So, you know, like, yeah, in terms of where we're at with funding with like King Frog, yeah, we have a few years of runway, and, you know, we have plans to put some of that money back into the community, back into the people that paid that money out. Like I want to put it back in, you know, I want to do things like buy punks and put some of our money into DeFi and build some fractional ownership and start to build an archive of value that the people that own SupDucks are a part of.
Well, that's awesome to hear, Franky. Well, listen, we are out of time, and it's time to wrap up here. So I want to say thanks very much to Franky. Jimmy is not on the call, but thanks to him. Thanks to Simon1.
Simon1.
I'm going to just...
Yes, man. Remember that fucking name. Your first pro skater for SupDucks. Fucking mean it.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up by giving all of you something very special, which is we worked with Ice Cube this week. And back about 10 years ago, Simon1 and I did a parody version of one of NWA's most famous tracks. We will play you out with that. It is an absolute gem from the archives. This is Stenderz with Straight Outta Walford. Hit it out. Thanks.
You are now about to witness the strength of Stenderz.
crazy curry lover in the RG. With a spoon aimed at Kimmy and Audi. Amir's cooled off, Anthony's blown off. Squeeze a lemon on the monkfish, don't scoff. Mandy's mum's getting all testy. Spit in her face, now she's getting all nasty. Stolen cash, Lucy's throwing out. Telling Ian was a rain sport, no doubt. Dinner start to crumble, they wanna rumble. Looking for a fight, throwing drinks on the table. No love for the wedding is like that. Could be bad news, that's worried Ian's ass. Phil's head is so smooth. Ain't no telling when he's down for a black move. He's on a murder rap, his case advancing. Got a crime record like Charles Manson. Tanya's scams coming up quickly. If it's bad news, will he stay with me? Max is bad, text from Roxy, always up to no good. It's straight out of Walford, 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 Walford.
That's the way it goes in the city of Walford, boy.